It's Monday night in South Philly as the Eagles welcome the Seahawks to Lincoln Financial Field for the first time since the heartbreaking 2019 wildcard loss back in January. Eager to make tonight the night that Russell Wilson is dealt his first career loss at the hands of the Eagles. Here's your weather report from NBC 10. It has been raining all day, and we could see more of that tonight. 100% chance of precipitation and very humid out there. About 60 degrees, a little warm for post-Thanksgiving football. Fans once again not in the stands due to increased COVID regulations, but we are glad to have you with us here on the Kickoff Show presented by Exalta. I'm Amy Campbell, joined by Fran Duffy, as always, from the other side of the NovaCare complex. And Fran, a lot of emotion around this matchup, a Seattle team that has gotten the better of Philadelphia in recent history.
They certainly have, Amy, but to me, one of the big things I'll be watching, while the Eagles have not been able to beat Russell Wilson so far in his career, they have done a pretty nice job of defending him and kind of keeping him under wraps, especially over the last few matchups. So that's something I'll certainly be looking to watch early in this game, is what Jim Schwartz has up his sleeve tonight at the Link.
All right, we'll continue to break it all down. Let's get back out to Lincoln Financial Field as the players warm up for this contest. Thanks to PA Lottery for bringing us those warm-ups. And of course, Fran, you started with it. Russell Wilson, he is the name we are talking about tonight when it comes to the opponent. He is 5-0 against the Eagles in that time. 8 touchdowns and 1 interception. I thought Dave Spadaro put it perfectly in his article this week when he said he's like tackling water. When this guy is on the field, that team always has a chance to make some magic happen.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the most dynamic players in the NFL, and what he has done in terms of developing into the passer that he has become, I mean, it's really just remarkable to watch. And since the Eagles have played him so often, I've really gotten a chance to kind of really evaluate how far he has evolved and how far he has come along as a passer. Because often early on in his career, you would see him drop his eyes against pressure, and he still to this day will take a lot of sacks and give up some turnovers that you're kind of head scratching after the play. But with what he is able to do with his legs, with his arm, he's one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. He throws with touch to all areas. He's accurate. He's obviously a really great athlete and can create with his legs outside of structure. He's one of the toughest guys to stop in the NFL. It's going to be a huge, huge test for this Eagles defense here tonight.
All right, let's take a look at the offensive starters here for the Eagles, the part of this team that is hoping to stay on the field, keep Russell Wilson off. And look, it's Fran, I feel like I could say this every single week, another different offensive line combination here. Jordan Mailata will be at left tackle, Jason Peters right guard, and then Matt Pryor right tackle, filling in there for Lane Johnson, who is done for the year. Very disappointing as he battled through that ankle injury for most of this season. He addressed the media and the fans earlier this week saying he's done for the year. Clearly a disappointing loss for the Eagles. And look, another week, another different offensive line group, 10 groups in 11 games.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's unheard of what the Eagles are doing, what they're facing in terms of the injuries, the in and out, the inconsistency along the offensive line from a health standpoint. It's not just guys that are out for the year and those long-term injuries. It's been guys that have been in and out, and that makes it almost as hard, maybe even harder, because you're still trying to kind of adjust on the fly on a week-by-week basis, and that doesn't help the play caller, that doesn't help the quarterback, it doesn't help the center, Jason Kelce, who's making his 100th consecutive start here tonight. That doesn't help him either. So, just trying to get acclimated to who's up front, where they're lining up. It's a tough task for everybody involved, but the Eagles are trying to figure that out. It's a huge, huge hill that they've had to climb over the course of this season so far.
Right, and great point there with Jason Kelce. 100 consecutive starts, deserves a ton of credit. It's amazing what he has done. Of course, he was asked about it earlier this week, and he kind of shrugged it off and said, he's been lucky that, things have gone his way. But Doug Pederson was asked about Jason Kelce. This is what my takeaway. Doug, sighing with amazement, said Jason Kelce is someone who does things right all the time, practices and plays hurt, gives of himself for his teammates. That's one of the reasons I make him a captain every year. A great Eagle, and very exciting to see him hit that 100 consecutive start milestone tonight. Let's take a look at the other side of the ball and look at the defensive starters here for the Eagles, and they will have a challenge against the Seattle offense, one of the best offenses in the league. 4th in total offense, and it's really their passing game that shines. They're going to be defending Seattle's weapons like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And look, Darius Slay, the picture of Darius Slay here, I'm thinking about the secondary. I'm thinking about what Darius Slay is going to be doing tonight. What kind of challenge does this Eagles secondary have in stopping Seattle?
Well, they've got really, I mean, when you look at this Seattle pass game, it's got a very refined funnel, right? You look at DK Metcalf, you look at Tyler Lockett. Those are the two guys that you're worried about in the passing game. You know, they lost the tight end, Greg Olsen. He's not going to be a factor in this game. It comes down to stopping those two receivers. And this group right here, this secondary, whether they're in man coverage, zone coverage, doesn't matter. You got to find a way to keep these guys under wraps. Part of that's going to be on the defensive line, but those two groups, they work hand in hand. Can the coverage hold up long enough for the D-line to get home? Can the defensive line get home quick enough to make things easier for the coverage? Some plays it'll be one, some plays it needs to be the other, but these two groups need to work hand in hand to keep Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett off the scoreboard because they're one of the best big play offenses in the NFL.
Well, Seattle's offense averaging 400 yards per game. That's fourth in the NFL. They're second in the league in points per game, 31.8. You talk about those two weapons. Since week 7, they've also been without Chris Carson, their running back. We should see him a little bit tonight. With Chris Carson, they were 5-0. They've been 2-3 since he's been injured. He had 6 touchdowns in 5 games. So he should provide a boost to the running game. But also, I want to talk a little bit about their losses, Fran, because they started 5-0, and it wasn't just the loss of Chris Carson. We saw Russell Wilson in those losses, 7 interceptions in those 3 losses, 3 turnovers per game for Russell Wilson in those losses. So plenty of vulnerability there if you're looking at what's the formula to beat Seattle. Run game and mistakes for Russell Wilson.
Well, that's what, coming into the NFL season, I would say over the first 5 weeks, Russell Wilson was the MVP. Everybody's 3 favorite words, let Russ cook, right? It was, they're going to throw, they're going to throw, they're going to throw, which is kind of the antithesis of how they've built that offense in the past, right? Usually it's been run the ball on first down, get into second and manageable, third and manageable situations, and then Russell Wilson can, make some dump offs, then he can run around and create some big plays. That was not what they had been over the first month and change of the season. It was more, let's have Russell Wilson drop back 30, 40 times and let it throw all over the yard to these pass targets. But as his play has kind of dipped a little bit and he's become a little bit more inconsistent, the run game has come a little bit more in focus. And this past week against Arizona, now last Thursday night, that was more, they went more towards the game plan that they've seen in years past. It was a little bit more running the football on first down, on second down. You saw a little bit more Carlos Hyde in that game. Now you get Chris Carson back into the mix. What is this game plan going to be? It's a wet one out there. You hit that at the very top of the show. That Seattle weather came from the West Coast with this Seahawks team. So will they carry through and run the football more? Well, I think we'll get a sense of that early on. If you notice that they're running the ball more on first down, that's going to be a little bit of a change in game plan of what they've done, especially in the first half of the year when they had a lot of that success.
Well, and another overrated storyline for me with the Seattle team is every time they go west to east, people always say, oh, the team's going west to east. Seattle is excellent in the East Coast time zone, so not something, in my opinion, that is a factor tonight. When you talk about stopping the run game, we're just looking at the linemen here, but I want to focus on the defensive line. Russell Wilson, second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. He's been sacked 33 times. You alluded to it earlier. And, of course, the run game that has struggled in the absence of Chris Carson. Let's talk about the guys up front. This guy right here up front for the Eagles, what kind of opportunity they have against the Seattle offense, but also this offensive line that is improving for Seattle, but has not necessarily been a bright spot for them historically or even this season.
Yeah, I think when you look at the right side of that Seattle offensive line, you look at Brandon Shell at right tackle, Damian Lewis, the rookie, I believe is a 4th-round pick out of LSU. Look, he's had a nice start to his career, but he's been a little bit up and down. He's a rookie, right? So at the end of the day, he's going to see a lot of Fletcher Cox in this game. You want to be able to win a lot of those one-on-ones if you're the Eagles' defensive line. The other part of that, though, is that, as I said, Russell Wilson will take a lot of bad sacks where you're saying, man, that you wish that ball would have come out a little bit faster, or you wish he would have taken off or thrown the ball away. Those sacks happen, and they really have been throughout Russell Wilson's career. That's a common theme with him, and that has popped up over the last few weeks as well. So while the turnovers have also climbed, the bad sacks have also climbed for the Seahawks offense. So part of that is on Russell Wilson. Part of that is on the offensive line. If you're the Eagles defense, and again, this is everybody, not just the D-line. If you're the Eagles defense, you want to force him to hold on to the football, make him a little bit confused in terms of what he's seeing, and then win those one-on-ones up front. It's going to take a full team to be able to get Wilson to the ground.
Well, and Brandon Graham said of Russell Wilson earlier this week, he runs around keeping the play alive, but his eyes are always downfield. Everyone needs to stay locked in on what he's doing. The strength of this Eagles defense this season has been defending the pass. That's what they're going to need to do against Seattle's pass-heavy offense tonight. Let's look at the Eagles offense. Getting this offense going, of course, it has been a storyline every week how much this offense has struggled to sustain drives. The third downs have been a conversation as well, but there's a lot of opportunity against this Seattle defense. Statistically, they are the worst total defense in the NFL. They're allowing more than 430 yards per game, but it's really the passing defense that's their weakness because they are the fourth best against the run. They're allowing 91.2 yards per game against the run. They're the league's worst passing defense, and they're also allowing a lot of points, averaging 28.7 points per game. So a lot of opportunity here for this Eagles to possibly use a little up-tempo, possibly get creative with Jalen Hurts, but there's opportunity against the Seattle defense that has really struggled to keep points off the board and to shut down opponents' passing games this season.
The Legion of Boom, they are not in Seattle right now. They're struggling to limit big plays. They're giving up a lot of yardage both through the air and on the ground. They've had to really change what they do philosophically. You go back to those days when they were going to Super Bowls in Seattle. It was a lot of base zone defense. There wasn't a lot of variety with what they were doing, not a lot of blitzing. But over the years, as there's been a lot of turnover on that side of the ball, they've had to turn the heat up a little bit, be a little bit more exotic with their looks and with their fronts, and try to bring pressure from different alignments. And with that, the secondary has not always held up their end of the bargain. They traded for Jamal Adams. They traded a first-round pick this summer, a very hefty price tag for the safety from the New York Jets. He's gotten beaten in coverage a little bit. Obviously, he brings a lot of pressure as a blitzer. That's really where his value comes. So number 11, Carson Wentz, will have to keep an eye on number 33, Jamal Adams, know where he's at all times. But ultimately, this defense just struggling to find an identity and find what they're ultimately good at. That being said, you've got some playmakers on that side. You look at Bobby Wagner at linebacker. They traded for Carlos Dunlap, the defensive end from the Cincinnati Bengals. Had a good game against the Eagles back in week 3 for Cincinnati. They've got guys at all 3 levels that can make some big plays. So the Eagles, while they can pick up some chunk yardage, and I think that they will both through the air and on the ground, they have to protect the football because they've got some players on that side, Seattle, that will take it away.
Well, and of course, that has been a storyline for the Eagles this season, limiting the turnovers, winning the turnover margin, something they have struggled with and worked on throughout the season, and of course, always an impact in the win and the loss. So we talk about balancing that offense, and look, the run game has been working pretty well for the Eagles, but for a lot of this season, they've been playing from behind, so going more to that passing game. Still, Miles Sanders, that's where it starts and ends. He's 4th in the NFL in yards per game with 83.6. The run defense, as I mentioned, this is the strength of Seattle's defense, so the opportunity could be on the outside. I'm hoping to see maybe a little more of Alshon Jeffrey, maybe a little more of Travis Fulgham, who became the darling of the NFL in those first few games that he played. In the last 2 games, he's had just 2 receptions. What do you think the matchup could be like for these receivers on the outside, Jeffrey, Fulgham specifically, with this Seattle secondary? Is there any matchup that you're watching tonight?
You brought up a couple good names there. Alshon Jeffrey, certainly Travis Fulgham. Personally, I'm not picky. I like to say whatever they find success with early on, and that's what any play caller, any game plan designer, they're going to kind of structure things up in the first 15, 20 plays to get a sense of how the defense is going to play certain looks, how they're going to play certain actions in the backfield. You're going to kind of get a sense, okay, what is Seattle looking to give up here? What are they okay with allowing? If that means Miles Sanders out of the backfield, if that means the tight ends down the seam, if that means receivers outside the numbers, wherever you find that vulnerability in the defense, you've got to take advantage of it. The Eagles have got to find ways to pick up chunk yardage, get this offense into a rhythm, throwing the football. They've really lacked that throughout most of the season. Get Carson Wentz going. I'll be interested to see ultimately how they feel that they are best suited to do that. Whether that's Greg Ward, whether that's Jalen Reagor, whether that's John Hightower vertically down the field, deep shot plays, if it's Travis Fulgham, if it's Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, the Eagles have got to find ways to move the football. I'm anxious to see ultimately how they're going to do that tonight against Seattle.
Well, look, they continue to get healthier. The opportunity is there. The opportunity is there against the Seattle defense, as you mentioned. And as Doug Pederson said earlier this week, they very much still have a lot to play for. And a win tonight would keep them would allow them to stay in first place in the division as well. He says, I wrote this quote down. I thought it was awesome from Coach. We're all sort of like pushing our chips to the middle of the table, and everyone is in, and everyone's all in. And of course, high stakes for a game tonight between the Eagles and the Seahawks. As we bring it back inside, of course, we thank PA Lottery for those warm-ups as always. And with that, we are about to check in with the Eagles Insider in just a second here with Dave Spadaro, who is over at Lincoln Financial Field. Dave, you're back on site at the game since the Birds are back at home. The Eagles have a tough stretch ahead. No margin for error in the NFC East. How did they turn the season around?
Well, hello, Amy and Fran. Good evening to you. And it's a beautiful night here at Lincoln Financial Field. We'll start with that. The rain is cleared out. Light winds, warm temperatures, absolutely perfect for football. So tonight, tall task for the Eagles. How do you turn it around? Well, you play your best game of the season in the most unusual circumstances with an offensive line that is makeshift at best, with a quarterback who's struggled so mightily since the first half of that game at Washington. And I think the key for the Eagles really is going to be jumping out on Seattle and kind of just letting it go, being relaxed, going for it, playing up. This team is a quarterback where it's very tight. Carson seems so tight when he's on the field. Have some fun. Generate your own energy tonight. Take a lead on Seattle. I really think that the Eagles are one spark away from turning the season around. We've seen it in 2018 and 2019. It just takes a spark, a win. Tonight would be the perfect setting, national television, prime time, good opponent here for the Eagles to get the season back on track. And they've got the veterans who've been there before and who have done it. So that's what I'm looking for, to turn it around, jump out early, and keep them pedal down against Seattle.
Dave, you've got your finger on the pulse of this team. What do you feel is the biggest storyline going into this matchup?
You guys have been talking about Russell Wilson all night, and I think that's the biggest storyline. He's 5-0 against the Eagles, 8 touchdown passes, 1 interception. And with that, last year the Eagles found some success in their pass rush with the way they play coverage, in containing Russell Wilson and the Seattle offense. They scored 17 points in each of those games. And I think that's really the key for the Eagles. The storyline for the Eagles defense is corralling him and not giving him the chance to get the football down the field. Very important that in coverage, and I expect it to be more zone than man-to-man. You don't want to turn your back to Russell Wilson. The Eagles have to be stickier in coverage and let that defensive front get a win at the line of scrimmage and reach Russell Wilson. Remember this about Russell. In the Seahawks' 3 losses, each of those 3 losses, he's had 3 giveaways. So that's the storyline for the Eagles defense. Take the football away from Russell Wilson.
Yeah, plenty of opportunity to do that, as you mentioned, Dave. Russell Wilson has shown that he will give it away if he's given the opportunity. What about the most important thing for the Eagles to execute tonight in order to get that win?
Amy, again, a familiar theme. Third down offense. They've been bad on first and second down. They've been in too many third and long situations. They've converted 2 of 21 third downs in the last 2 games. That is not acceptable at all. And that's a reason why the Eagles have scored 3 points and 0 points in the first half of these last 2 games. So keeping the offense on the field, converting on third down. It all starts on first and second down. So really, really interested to see the approach tonight. Run versus pass. Get the ball out of Carson's hands quickly with that new look offensive line. Don't give Jamal Adams an opportunity to blitz, which I think the Eagles expect him to do.
We'll see if they can get it done in prime time with everybody watching. Dave, thanks so much. We'll catch up with you after the game.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, and Fran, for you, what is the key to this one for Philadelphia?
Well, we've talked about this Seattle pass game, and you look at DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. When I watch them on film, the biggest way they like to get them the football, crossing routes, especially vertically down the field. So it will be up to the Eagles defense. How do you limit DK Metcalf? How do you limit Tyler Lockett? They love to get these guys the ball on the move in the vertical part of the field, especially on these crossing routes over the middle. Just like this, what you're seeing. Play action, straight drop back. They like to get those guys the ball on the run, generate yards after catch. So if you're the Eagles, go back to what Dave just said. If you're in your zone coverage concepts, let's just say it's cover 3, like what you see here, the emphasis is put on those middle of the field defenders. You have got to drop back, get to your landmarks in zone coverage, take away those throws in the middle of the field, force Russell Wilson to hold on to the football. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And then if you're in man coverage, the Eagles are a big man-to-man coverage team. At times, they will play man-to-man coverage in this game. You need those defenders in the middle of the field to take those throws away. Whether it's a safety as a robber, whether it's a linebacker in the hole, those players in the middle have got to help take away those crossers. It might look like a double team. Ultimately, for Russell Wilson to hold on to the football, the Eagles in the middle of the field have to take away those crossing routes, Amy.
Well, and another good way to limit those receivers on the outside is to keep the offense off the field. So for me, that is my key, controlling the clock and keeping Russell Wilson off the field. Look, we have said it throughout this entire show and for his entire NFL career. When Russell Wilson is on the field, Seattle has a chance to win. I don't care what the score is. If there is time on that clock, they have a chance. He is the straw that stirs the drink of that team, and he is where it starts and ends for me. So if the Eagles offense can stay on the field, extending those drives, putting points on the board, converting on third down, they can keep Russell Wilson and the Seattle offense on the sidelines where he cannot make that magic happen. So I am looking to see Russell Wilson on the sidelines. Let's see who our own Mike Quick and Merrill Reese have their eye on in tonight's matchup. We'll send it back over to Lincoln Financial Field and check in with the voices of the Eagles.
Amy, it's been a rainy day and a rainy evening here in Philadelphia, but we have live football here at the Link. Unfortunately, the fans are still not here. Mike, who is your player to watch?
It's an easy one for me, Amy. DK Metcalf, one of the most dominant receivers in the National Football League, against Darius Big Play Slay. The Eagles signed him back in March for this type of assignment. I can't wait to watch these two all night.
Amy, I am looking forward to seeing, and I think we're going to see him throughout the game, Jalen Hurts. He's been in one play here, one play there. He may get a little more activity tonight, and I'm anxious to see it. Now back to you.
A season with many injuries for the Eagles has meant a season with opportunity for new players to make an impact. While tight end Richard Rodgers isn't exactly new, he's having a new kind of impact for the Eagles this season. After catching one pass for 7 yards in all of 2018 and 19 combined, this season Rodgers has 21 catches, 292 yards, and a touchdown. He sat down with Mike Quick to share more on his season in this week's one-on-one interview presented by Pond Hockey.
So, Richard, first of all, thanks for joining us. You happen to be one of the bright spots here lately. Tell me about the resurgence of Richard Rodgers.
It's really just, trying to contribute whatever I can to the team and, help the team win. And this year, the coaches have done a good job putting me in spots to succeed, and I think I've just done a good job of doing that, just giving us the best opportunity when I get put in the situations to make plays and just be there for my teammates.
So you're truly a role player now with 3 very good tight ends on this roster. Tell me a little bit about the role that you play for the Eagles.
I don't know if we necessarily have certain roles, but all 3 of us are very good, complete tight ends. And I don't know if you can say that about a lot of rooms in the NFL. I think there are some teams where they have a pass-specific tight end or a blocking tight end. I think all of us do both jobs really well, so I think that's one of the strengths of our team.
How does it help the fact that Justin Peel, your tight ends coach, is a guy who also played in the league? Does it help you game day, practice, off the field? Tell me how he factors in.
He's a big part of it because when you have someone that understands the game, there's not that gap in communication. Because sometimes when you have coaches that didn't play, maybe you just feel like they don't understand what the situation is, or the predicament that you're in on the field because they never were in that situation. But for Coach Peel with us, he's been in those situations before. He knows the tough spots and the spots where we have to really work, and he makes sure on game day, that's another great thing. On game day, he's really locked in, and he knows that we're locked in as well. So he leaves us alone and kind of lets us go on game day, which is something you love to see out of a coach.
Monday night, you're going to have the Seattle Seahawks. They're 7-3. They've got a defense that's 4th stopping the run. When you look statistically, they're the worst team in stopping the pass. How do you process that when you're getting ready for a team like the Seahawks?
I think that just happens to be, with their style of play. I think that's a little bit of a product of their style of play because they're an aggressive team. If you watch them on film, they're very fast to the ball. They're a fast flow defense. So, when teams run play action, It's kind of hard to resist that if you know we start running the ball and then you get a couple play actions that can hurt you in the pass game. But they do a great job of, like I said, of flying around and playing aggressive. So we're gonna have to take care of that on Monday night.
Richard, with the word coming down that Lane Johnson, you'll no longer have him for the rest of the season. Many times you guys are in a strong right formation with the tight end on the right side. Tell me how that affects your assignment and what you guys will have to do.
I think for us personally and as a group of tight ends, it doesn't really matter who's next to us. Obviously losing Lane is a big part of what we do on offense, and you know, just him being around the locker room and everything like that. He's a great guy. We're gonna miss him in that respect. But as far as us, the tight ends, getting our job done, you know, whoever's next to us, we just gotta bring him along. If it's a young guy, if it's an old guy, it doesn't really matter. We just all gotta be on the same page, communicate, and we do a great job of doing that. So I don't think that's really gonna affect us much.
Richard, best of luck to you on Monday Night Football. Everybody's gonna be watching. We want to see another win. Good luck.
I love seeing an athlete seize the opportunity in front of them like Richard Rodgers has done this season. Fran, what do you think has allowed Rodgers to make this impact this season?
Well, what's allowed him has been the injuries, certainly to Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. So he's had that opportunity. And look, he's always been this player. I mean, he was a second-round pick coming out of Cal a few years back by the Green Bay Packers. He's bounced around. He's been a journeyman backup over the course of his career. But, you know, he was a second-round pick for a reason. You know, teams felt he had this ability. He was the son of a coach growing up. His father coaches still in the NFL now. I think when you look at his ability, he was known as a guy that can block, he can catch the football, he can contribute on special teams. That's what you knew of him coming out of college, and he's turned into this player. He's gotten the opportunity now. You can see he's gotten these extra practice reps with both Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz on the sideline, and I think that's helped boost Carson Wentz's confidence in him. Certainly that first game against the Giants was a little bit of a coming out party for those guys, but I think ultimately opportunity and then faith and confidence in each other, that leads to a little bit of production here in the pass game.
Well, it's obvious Carson Wentz trusts him. And, you know, we haven't seen the Eagles use as much 12 personnel this season, in part because of those injuries. How has the offense used the tight end in a different way?
Yeah, I think ultimately it comes down to, you know, putting your best guys on the field. So when Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz are both healthy, yeah, 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, 1 running back makes a lot of sense. When those guys are hurt, maybe it doesn't make as much sense to have 2 tight ends out there. And so your philosophy offensively is going to change a little bit. And I think ultimately when you look at when Dallas Goedert and Richard Rodgers and Zach Ertz, everybody's healthy at the same time, Doug Pederson brought up the idea, yeah, maybe we'll play a little bit more 13 personnel with 1 running back and 3 tight ends. So something to keep an eye on here moving forward for the offense. Ultimately, again, though, it comes down to having your best guys on the field and understanding how you want to attack the opponent that given week.
13 personnel is an exploration I would be very excited to watch here in Philadelphia. All right, fans, there is still time to be in the stands at Lincoln Financial Field this season with an Eagles fan cutout. Fan cutouts printed by Rico are only $35, and orders of 4 or more receive a $5 discount per cutout. Order today at PhiladelphiaEagles.com/cutouts. And Fran, we know the cutouts will be on full display tonight since there are no fans at the game. This is really the best way for fans to make an impact and show the players their support.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, all of us miss having fans in the stands. But look, we can't get your beautiful voices to be heard at the link on game days, but your faces can still be there for $35. That's not a bad deal for sure.
And of course, Fran, we know your beautiful face is over there supporting the team as well. All right, we are going to take a quick break here. On the other side, we will share our final thoughts. Stay with us. The Philadelphia Eagles and Exalta Coding Systems have built a roster of all-pro teachers. Go to PhiladelphiaEagles.com/Exalta All-Pro Teachers to view this year's list of outstanding recipients. And that brings us now to 15 minutes until kickoff. And as is tradition, Fran, I believe you have an announcement for the folks at home.
That's right. We've got 15 minutes until kickoff, which means that you've got 15 minutes to save 15% or more on your car insurance by switching to Geico.
Look, it couldn't be easier. We have even given you guys at home a free 15 minutes right now to call Geico. All right, it is about that time. Remember to tune in right back here as soon as the game is over for the post-game show presented by Rico, Fran, and myself. We'll be here for instant analysis and reaction. We'll be joined by Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, and as always, hear from Coach Pederson and the players live. Until then, it is a battle of birds on Monday Night Football, the Eagles and the Seahawks. As always, we will see you on the other side.